I was thinking a lot about, there was an amazing behind-the-scenes thing they did on Return of the Jedi that was all about the creature work behind Jabba's palace, and that was on TV a lot when I was a kid. And it really showed you how they did all of the creatures, and I remember what an impact that had on me. But then also we talked about the amazing behind-the-scenes doc that they did on Magnolia, the Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and docs that really really get you into the process as opposed to trying to just promote the outcome of the process, I guess. And so we knew we wanted a filmmaker with a perspective to come in, and lucky enough to.
Hey, did you know that I climbed up inside Jabba the Hutt?
Be careful of the context now.
Oh, I asked for permission first, but I just wanted to know what it was like to be inside there. It was like a sauna bath, you know? You could lose weight at work. I also climbed into the bantha in, what were those rams? Is that what that was? Yeah, whatever they called it. But it was outside the cantina in North Africa. And I went inside, and the inside was all paper mache with newspapers.
I thought there were elephants underneath.
There was what?
Wasn't there actual animals underneath those?
Well, there were elephants, but that was...
What did you crawl inside?
That was second unit back.
Okay.
Like the one that was mechanical, the head moved, it was all like a crowbar inside. But the odd memory I have is that since it was covered with paper mache inside, I had a little flashlight and I read a review sideways of David Bowie's concert in Paris. I thought, that's a movie memory I'll never forget.
Yeah, and that's the other big part about what these guys did, not only the footage, but they radio mic'd all of us up every single day on set, and we wore a radio mic all day long, and the sound and what they got was a big part of it. And I had always, documentaries have always been magic to me because I always am baffled by how they can get such intimate moments with a camera sitting there. And it is weird, it is so strange though when you're going about your work over this like 6-month period, how these guys just disappear, how quickly you forget that they're there. It's just terrifying and kind of insidious, but it's wonderful. I mean, but that was what we were after from the start. We were like, well, even if something awful does happen, I don't know if you were kind of waiting for you were at like a NASCAR race with open through a crash or something, but to make a more interesting doc. But even if something like that happened, it's like, well, at least we'll have a doc of it. If this all goes tits up, at least we'll have a great doc.
And to your credit, it was incredibly intimately done. You feel present, which sometimes doesn't happen in documentaries. I think you did an amazing job at that.
Hi Ryan, my question is, at the beginning of the documentary, soon after you were announced as the director, George Lucas wanted to talk to you, and I was curious if you could share any of that conversation, any advice he gave. And Mark, same question for you. During production, was George Lucas in touch with you, and did he give any advice?
It was a really gracious kind of like, trying to think of like an equivalent to it. It was kind of like a good luck kid type call, but in the most incredibly gracious, wonderful way. He was just, especially given how personal, like Kathy was talking about in the movie, how personal these movies are to him. The fact that he's able to reach out and just kind of, give that kind of goodwill at the start of the process kind of meant everything.
Well, when George told us they wanted, I was with Carrie and he said that they wanted to do another trilogy, and within seconds, Carrie slapped the table and said, "I'm in!" And later said, "Carrie, poker face. Do like me, just act, like you have to think it over." And I really did have to think it over, because there was a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I never imagined, even if they did another trilogy, they'd use the original characters. But when I called him to say, okay, I'm ready to sign up, because I thought, well, Harrison's not going to do it. But when I read that Harrison was doing it, I thought, oh my God, I've been drafted. Because if if Larry and Moe come back, Curly's got a son, right? I'll be the most hated man in nerddom. So I called to say I'll do it, and I said, I only have 2 requests. I don't want to do a cameo, and I want to run of the trilogy role. So see how well that worked out for me?
My question, it regards just to like the scope of it. Star Wars in general, and this movie in particular, is really broad and big and mythical in terms of performances and writing and production and all that. And so I'm wondering what's the most difficult part of trying to balance that huge scope with the intimacy that you have to have for these personal character moments?
Yeah, it's almost too high profile for comfort. You know, I said to Ryan, I'm terrified. You know what he said? I am too. That's when I bonded with him deeply. Because I said, I have to pretend that this is like a small art house film that the critics will rave about, but the public will roundly reject. Because if I really thought about, you know, intellectually, you know, the camera this far from your face and it's forever and I can't go back and change it, you know, I'd just be in the fetal position in a corner. So, yeah, as John Boyega said, it's just pressure. You have to act calm. That's how I know I'm a good actor. I look actually nonchalant at times. And inside I'm coiled tightly, you know. So, I forgot what your question was.
What's the most difficult part of balancing the huge scope of it all with the intimate moments?
Well, because when you get right down to it, it's not Mark Hamill in a big blockbuster film, it's Luke. You know, the hardest thing I had to do was his radical reimagining of that character. So, you know, you had to figure out your backstory, even though it's not important to the audience, it's important to the actor to know, hey, what happened between the last one and this one, where the most optimistic guy in the galaxy becomes a suicidal, cranky old man telling people to get off his lawn. You know? And I was really happy with where I was, you know. I thought, I'm supposed to be in the elderly recluse portion of my career. You know, but the idea of going back, it was like, they say you could never go home again. And in a way, I thought, well, that's not true. Here I am coming home again. But it was a house I didn't recognize at all. So that was the challenge.
At the beginning of the documentary, you guys start off by showing clips from some of my favorite YouTube personalities, internet personalities, talking about when you got announced as the director. I was wondering, from the perspective of an actor and a producer and a documentary filmmaker and creating a movie, what is it like seeing the internet rumors, seeing people's responses to the various announcements, and how do you separate that from when you go on set and you have to make the movie itself?
Don't go on the internet. You know, in the old days, they give you get fan mail. I mean, you wouldn't get mail from people that say, "Dear Mr. Hamill, you stink. Love, Rachel." Now there's the internet, which God so kindly provided for total strangers to insult you right in your own home. Note to self, don't go on the internet.
It is, I mean, the aspect of it you're talking about, which comes at the beginning and it comes at the end. It is the only time when it's like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the total perspective vortex, that terrifying thing of shows you, it's the ultimate torture device in the universe because it shows you the entire scope of the universe and there's a little dot that says you are here. It shows you your actual place. And when you zoom back with something like Star Wars and realize the immensity of it, it is really scary. I have to say though, during the actual time that's important, which is the work, it's incredible how quickly and how easily that all goes away and vanishes. And it has to, because you can't have that on your mind. You have to focus in on what feels right to you, what's the story you're telling, what does it mean to you, why are you making these decisions, and why do they resonate with what's in your heart. And you have to pull it all back into that. And weirdly, when you're focused and doing the work, it's not as hard as it sounds to block out all the noise. It kind of goes away naturally.
Thank you so much for this documentary. I had no idea of how much work and time came into the process of making it all down to the little bitty details. It was amazing.
That's why the end credits are an hour and a half long.
You have to snap your head back and remember, this process happens with on every single movie with characters. It's always a dialogue between the director and the actor, and that's a healthy thing. You always butt heads with the actors over, yeah, absolutely. And so it is a fascinating part of this process.
Remember when I called you up and it was panicking? I said, did they take out the floating boulders?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because when we were shooting the end of 7, JJ goes, and we'll have a couple of floating boulders to show Luke's force powers emanating from him. And I read 8 before 7 came out. So I called Ryan in a panic. I said, do you know they're going to put in floating boulders? Get them out! And it won't match your script. Plus, I thought, oh, great, I'm going to have the force oozing out of every orifice of my body. I'll be knocking down ATTs like dominoes with a raising an eyebrow. And I won't even have to train that hard, because I'll just do this, and the ILM guys will put the force lightning coming out of my fingers. I trained for 12 months for 7 before I read the script. And let me tell you, I went twice a week, I was never late, and I never canceled. And I would drive to the gym. Carrie had the equipment installed in her house, and still they'd come to the door and she goes, oh, was that today?
If you were in the director's chair, if you were writing the script, what would be your take on Luke Skywalker for this?
No. What would you do, motherfucker?
I told Ryan, I said, listen, I have lots of really terrible ideas I'd like to share with you. And maybe from 1,000 you'd find 1 or 2 you'd like. But I was no different with George. I read Return of the Jedi, I said, wait a second, I thought I was heading towards the struggle of going to the dark side. I lost a hand, I'm now dressed in black, I've got a glove, I see the trend here. But, you just have to, you're just an assistant to the chef. He comes up with the recipe, we have to cook it and hope that the audience finds it the most delicious thing they've ever tasted, and hopefully they don't go, ooh, I can't even eat this. So, I'm like a lot of you. I mean, I feel an investment in it. I feel like a certain sense of ownership, which is a joke because I don't own it. Now Disney does, but you care, and that's what happens with these films. And I'm sorry I lowered my guard and expressed my misgivings about it, because that belongs in process. That doesn't belong to the public, and I feel bad because I made that statement before I saw the finished film, and even though I read the whole script, you're working on puzzle pieces and you don't see the whole thing assembled until it's done. And I just think, it's a stunning film. It's challenging, it's surprising, it has humor, it's probably the most complex Star Wars film since maybe Empire. So, the thing is, again, my job is not to do anything but try and, I have to put aside my feelings and try and realize the director's vision the best I can, and, what else can you do?
And like I said in the doc, it really comes from the heart, is that the fact that through the whole process, because ultimately at the end of the day, you always are going to have back and forth with every actor about the character, you're going to agree about stuff, disagree about stuff. The fact that Mark gave the emotionally powerful performance that he did in this movie, and the fact that only comes from completely committing yourself to putting that story onto the screen and to connecting with that version of the character. And the fact that Mark put that trust, I guess, into me, it's
even the things that I said, like, well, wait a second, I'm going to burn down the library, don't try and stop me, and then Yoda raises a finger, does it for me, and I go, but that's just sacred Jedi text! Like, make up your mind. That's Luke. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I said, oh, okay, not only is he a broken man, he's certifiably insane. No, I can play that.
Typecasting.